to a teensy-weensy tiny balancing patch for Empires of Aether as we head back into a more consistent schedule of paying tribute to the Elements. Games are going to be coming at you on a regular basis as we're getting more and more people involved. Very exciting time to grab a seat at the table. And in our recent updates, we're trying to put in these creatures that aren't soldiers that all these different elements can wield, providing new and varying strategies for them. And of course, tweaking will be necessary in the future. Some other updates that we'll be looking to in the not-so-distant future will be addressing weather and advantage card balancing. In fact, part of this is going to be removing several weather events that I think the experiment has been played out. Weather events such as keep your enemies closer that switches the positions of your capital tiles and your star tiles and just forces blood to be shed immediately, and it does ruin the fun of many. I think the experiment is over. Weather events like that are just so anticlimactic for the later turn players will be removed. They're exciting. They're flashy. But when it invalidates playing for 45 minutes, yeah, we're done. The next experiment to tackle is how to make monuments more accessible and what features of monuments are we missing. I love the monument archetype in the game. I think it's one of the coolest ideas we've come up with, and so I'm really excited to see what it's going to become. Now we just got to make it a little more accessible without being broken. The next elements to get new abilities in line, it's going to be Sand and Earth. Earth has the least amount of abilities, aside from Moon, which is the most recently released, and Moon is still getting tweaked as is. But Earth has the least amount of abilities. So, we're going to give them their own new set here pretty soon, and probably going to nerf their original abilities because Earth is S tier in almost every single game. Absolutely busted. And Sand, we're really going to double down on the Tusken Raider theme of things and give them their own new spin on some creatures that they can summon as well. At least that's the vision I have. I haven't fully fleshed it out, but I got a little layout, a little rough draft here for you. Now for the balancing. The Phoenix for Fire has only been tested once, and I've run some numbers on it since. We're nerfing the Phoenix to go from 50 to 30, and there's the potential for that to even be changed as well to make it to where Phoenix has a one-turn downtime in between executions for it to be resurrected. There is a counter to it, and that is the advantage card Down Boy, that if it is killed before Tier 3, before it is able to get to Tier 3, it is permanently removed from the game, which is very, very powerful. And the reason why I'm totally okay with that is Fire is getting 3 abilities for the price of 1, essentially. So it's very, very good. And that still is being considered as well, if it needs to be more than 1 ability. It's certainly not strong enough to be a Tier 1, a Tier 2, and a Tier 3. But perhaps a Tier 1 and a Tier 2? Something to be considered? We shall see. Moon! After running some numbers and seeing it tested in just 1 game, Moon is getting nerfed. The right card on your screen is going to be the most up-to-date one. They were just able to just get way too much value. That whole 2 soldier start as well as spawning free soldiers upon purchasing forests, no bueno. They're supposed to have a weak early game, so let's have a weak early game, shall we? And so now we are going to nerf that forest food production, and also the immediate effect of spawning 2 soldiers is being nerfed to 1 soldier. So Moon, still very viable, I think. And I think if they get to Tier 2, they are borderline unstoppable. But this will allow more elements to actually counter them in the early game. And now we go to Lightning's new abilities, which have also only been tested once. And a very good suggestion, and I totally agree with them after seeing what Lightning had to give up in order to utilize these new abilities. It just simply wasn't balanced whatsoever. And so Bolt and Volt will come as a tandem package. They are 1 Tier 2 ability, and that is going to greatly improve their versatility and allow Lightning to bring one of their other just absolutely pivotal Tier 2 abilities with them in whatever build you opt to go with. Before it is even used in an official match, I've run some numbers. The Snowman was going to be broken. Snowman's getting nerfed. 75 combat value instead of the 100 combat value we were going to roll it out with. And also, counter, if you remove a blizzard that it is currently sitting on, the Snowman will perish. So it is much more of a risky ability and still very powerful. Snowman can move 2 tiles per turn. It can attack twice in the same turn, which allows it to form 2 blizzards every single turn, not to mention the fact that it has that quest associated with it, where it either needs to win 3 battles, kill a boss tile, or claim a star tile, and achieve a win condition for you. Very achievable for it, even if it only lasts 1 or 2 turns. So yeah, I think it's still very good. Glacier is always going to be good. Just the simple fact that the blizzards exist, Glacier is always going to be good. For you Glacier mains out there that don't like to use your brain too much, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But Poison, really excited. I love the Toxin archetype, and I love where the lore is going to take it. Poison's going to be a cool story to write and a cool story to read. However, their abilities, for the fact that we've created a new currency for them, and you had to spend that currency to get 1 use out of their abilities, doesn't make too much sense. And so, before we've really seen it completely fleshed out, we're going to test it to see if Toxin abilities are balanced, if you can use them over and over again, but just having to spend that Toxin every time. You still have to cut a lot of meat from the original build of Poison. You're not taking the Plagues, the handle with gloves, the multiplying like rats every single time if you're running these Toxin abilities. And so I do think, as of right now, for my current perception and the different scenarios that these abilities could be used, I do think it's going to be fairly balanced. And so I'm going to up the Harvesting the Dead passive here to when your general wins a battle, produce 2 Toxin. So there's other abilities that would utilize Toxin in order to pull this off consecutively, and so we need a sort of economy that actually profits itself in order to make the other late game abilities viable. But then also, recognizing that if we can recycle abilities, we can use them repeatedly, Blow Dart meta needed to have a limit on bosses that you could use it on. So you can only use the Blow Dart meta ability on a boss 1 at a time. So you can't use it on Typhon, the quote-unquote unstoppable 4 times, and bring him to 0 HP. And then just step on him, squash him like a bug, and get a win condition. I could see that being a little unhealthy. The last change. As we said, it was going to be a project to make the Elemental Temple a little more viable. Let's buff the temple, shall we? Let's buff the temple. Tier 1 abilities can now be purchased for 3 food and 3 BM. Tier 2 and Tier 3 for 5 food and 5 BM. However, you can still only purchase 1 ability from each tier. That means you can only recycle 1 Tier 1, 1 Tier 2, and 1 Tier 3 in the same game, and they still cannot be activated the turn that you repurchase them. What I've noticed is that the Elemental Temple goes completely unused in like the last 30 games we played until it's the turn before Aether. Then everyone uses their double movement abilities to get to the temple and contend for it if they can, and then Aether's claimed. That's it. The temple has been worthless. Let's make it useful again, shall we? What strats can you think of in which if you had 2 uses of a Tier 1 ability, would it just go over the top? What strategy do you prioritize the middle of the board to simply become unstoppable? Are you spamming rivers as the Water Nation? Are you making 2 different swamp tiles produce Toxin for you in the Poison Nation? Are you battle crying twice? Are you making a couple more blizzards? Whatever it may be, I think this is going to be a very welcome change for a lot of elemental strategies that make their late game all the more viable. That's it. It's a quick one here today, lads. And we'll see you at the next table. Empires of Aether. I love you.